are live now.
Oh, woo, I'm alive!
We're live! Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Women in Puppetry interview series. I am Jen Himes, and today I am extremely excited because our guest today has worked with the Muppets and on Sesame Street, and she is the one and only Leslie Carrara-Rudolph. Thank you, Leslie.
Hi, Philly. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Leslie. Okay, some people know who you are, Leslie, but some people do not. So please inform them as to who you are.
I will. First, I would like to inform them that I'm married to the Paul Rudolph, who's entering right now. Well, I'm Leslie, and like who I am, well, I'm from Northern California. So I work on I work on Sesame Street. I've been there for 11 seasons now, and I'm very excited about it, that I get to pilot the fairy, but I also get to do all kinds of other things. Let me play the curtain velvet that drops down in the middle of the musical, and I've been a penguin before, and pineapples and chickens and all kinds of stuff. So that's exciting. I got my start on Muppets Tonight. I don't know where to look, Jen, because you're in the little. I look at
I'm down here.
Corner. And
you can look down here. That's fine.
I'll take that if they say more comfortable. Got my start on Muppets Tonight, which is also where I met Paul Rudolph, who was our assistant musical director out there. So that was my big, huge, gigantic break. My character on Muppets Tonight was Pamela Henderson from the Bay of Pigs Watch. And I did a dog rocker character named Darcy on Muppets Real World and different things. And I got to assist the great Jerry Nelson, like everybody. It was just a whirlwind. So I think that's kind of that. I also, other shows, but people may or may not know, I worked on Animal Jam with Ricky Boyd, who's really awesome, and Johnny T, and a bunch of great people, Andy Stone, Allison Moore. That was great. That was on, I think that's on, maybe it's still on Animal Planet. And then A Webulous World of Dr. Seuss, the second season, where I met Tim Lagasse, who's practically, well, he's my brother. We're both weird, so we had to be brought up on separate parts of the United States because it's just too much to have us in the same room. And I met Pam Arciero and Marty and Stephanie, and so I don't know. I feel like I have a big, strong puppet family. I'm super grateful for everybody. So that's kind of, that's my Muppet stuff, I guess.
Awesome.
And then I also am recently doing digital puppetry for the Jim Henson Company on the new PBS show Splash and Bubbles, which is a lot of fun. And then for them, I also did Francis, which is another digital puppetry thing. I'm just giving puppet references, but the people in Florida know me from the Adventures Club, and and the people in my hometown know me for a show called Beach Blanket Babylon, and for doing community theater and teaching water fitness at the YMCA to senior citizens and to the fringes. So, I mean, people know me for different reasons, but I just listed puppet stuff.
Right.
The Puppet Improv group, I started with the original cast of Puppet Up, which was before Sesame Street even. So that was like 12 years ago.
Cool.
That's kind of a lot. And then and also at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center for the puppetry conference, which is one of my favorite things. So, gosh, so many favorite things.
Yeah. Cool. Wow, so much stuff.
And Center for Puppetry Arts too. I did Wake Up Your Weird workshops, parts of it there. So
awesome. And we'll definitely talk about Wake Up You're Weird and Lolly and everything. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because next thing I was gonna ask you was about Lolly, because Lolly was the first thing that got me interested in your work. And like, I saw her and I was like, oh my goodness, she's amazing. Lolly Lardpop is, I guess you could call her, she's like a 5-year-old sock puppet with a manic sweet tooth, probably.
I would say to describe Lolly, and ironically I have both these things in my background. If Lamb Chop, can you see Sherry Lewis?
Yes.
If Lamb Chop and Madam, can you see that?
Yes.
I don't know. If Lamb Chop and Madam had a baby, it'd be Lolly. That's my description, but she's a lot more Madam than Lamb Chop. But those are two of my heroes. But yeah, I love Lolly. She's my pal.
So, what kind of work do you do with Lolly exactly? Like,
oh, okay. Well, Lolly is one of my favorite things. Is Lolly she's very passionate, so there's no boundaries with her, and I take her into schools. And one of the best things about Lolly is because she's just a sock puppet, is that kids look at her and they're like, wow, I can make that, I could, you take a fancy puppet into school and they're not necessarily most likely to go home and make a puppet immediately. And that's something that I realize really happens with Lolly. Like, kids go home and like, I'm gonna make one of those things. So I just, originally, it's funny, Lolly, I've told this story a lot. And so, but I was feeling shy. I had just done a show for the Disney company, and called The Wahoo Wagon. It was at the El Capitan Theater, and it ran for 3 months, and it had me and a bunch of amazing puppeteers, but it was basically me with this big Airstream trailer that opened up, and it had all these whimsical portals for me to pull out creative stuff, and it was filled with puppets and joy. And
awesome.
Anyway, that show ended, and my friend asked me to do a cabaret. And I had been so busy, I've been so behind a puppet and doing all these different characters, I was feeling incredibly shy about just singing. And I used to sing with a big band. I sang with Mike Hennebery's Big Band Orchestra. That's one of my passions. I love novelty songs. I love Ella Mae Morris. I love, like I said, big band music and all kinds of vintage singers, Anita O'Day, Doris Day. Anyway. Ella Fitzgerald's my number one, just all these people. So I was so nervous about performing. I called up my friend, Miss Coco Peru, who is a drag queen, and she's quite fabulous. Miss Coco Peru is just a brilliant, brilliant monologuist. And I said, Miss Coco, I'm super nervous. I'm cabaret. Now I'm completely shy. What should I do? And she's like, well, there's always suicide, or you can make a puppet. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to choose puppet. Because she's very dark, but very, very straightforward. Like, do something you feel comfortable with. Just make a puppet, get it out of your system. You've done something you're comfortable with, and then go move on from there. So I literally you're right. That's what I'm going to do. And I made Lolly in about a half hour. And it was during the Halloween season. I had a Pippi Longstockings headband. I twisted it up and made it go straight up in the air because it reminded me of my other friend who is in heaven, my dear, dear friend, Michael Benbrook. He had a character who was Miss Texas, and his hair went straight up. And plus it makes Lolly look like an exclamation point. So she always excited to be somewhere. I'm excited. And then I called my friend, it just had crazy arms, but no arm rods. And I called my friend Allison Mork, who was at the time helping Wayne White, who know him, Beauty is Embarrassing. She was helping him with an art installation. I said, I don't have any rods. And I can make you something really quick. So I drove by her. I picked up the arm rods. I went to the cabaret spot in Los Angeles, and I just put Lolly on at last minute, and I decided to sing the Candyman. Nobody knew about her. I sprung her on everyone, including my accompanist, Andy Howe, who was my accompanist. He also was the musical director for Debbie Reynolds. So that was a really hard year for us all. Anyway, I put Lolly on, and she took over the show. She just basically barely sang the song, tried to get mints and candy and gum out of people's purses, and then off. And then I sang my song. It made me more comfortable. And then after the show, I was in a dress. I was all excited. I was like, I did it. My friends who come up, and most of them were, you know, they came up and said, "Oh, Leslie, where's Lolly?" And I was like, "What? I'm in a dress." And they wanted Lolly to be in their shows. And it was during the time that I won the Queen of Silver Lake competition, which was a drag competition. All these things you didn't know took to get to Sesame Street. That I had a character that I was doing, and I was really active in my community, you know, helping with resources for families affected with HIV and things like that. So I ended up doing more shows, and then Lolly started doing a lot of shows in the basement of a Mexican restaurant in Silver Lake called Casita del Campo with Mr. Dan and James, and she's been this show called Fruitcake Follies. We haven't been able to do it the last few years. So I just, you know, Lolly has two lives. Like I take her everywhere, you know. I don't have any rules, so anything I'm passionate about, Lolly's passionate about. And if it's too young for her, then I have Granny Dot deal with it. And, you know, like a character, like most characters, they're an extension of who you are and what you believe in. And the whole reason I love puppetry, you know, I've been in theater for as long as I can remember. Since I've been 16 years old. I started doing after-school programs and teaching and doing theater programs and outreach and community theater. Went to San Francisco State, designed my major. So through all that time, performing arts have been really part of my heart, my soul, and working with kids at risk. And puppets are one of the most amazing ways to reach kids and people in different situations. And they also can take on some really tough subjects that, you know, that sometimes people can't. So sometimes they're storytellers. So sometimes a shadow show is much more, sends a much stronger message. I know in our show, Wake Up, You're Weird, the bullying section is all done in shadows because we didn't want to give the bully a face, because that way people could project whatever their bully was inside onto that. So that was a really long answer.
This actually brings us to the big question, Leslie.
Oh,
the big question really
This is
the deep one. Why puppetry?
Yeah. You know what? Like I said, for me, storytelling, you know, and what's going to reach your audience and be the best way to tell the story. You know, Tim Wilgass always says, why puppets? You know, why would you use a puppet to tell that story? And how's that going to help people understand? For me, when I brought Lolly in was because, you know, she can connect with a younger audience because she's one of them. So a lot of times Lolly saves me. You know, she gets to be a heron. She asks the tough questions. She's 5. She's uncensored. So she'll say, you know, I don't understand. You know, one of Lolly's most important pieces ever was her talking about Marilyn, her Planet of the Apes glamour model. So this is hilarious. You would look at this and say, why does this have a really important story? The really important story behind this is that this was actually made for Lolly by my friend Michael, who I said is in heaven. He made her this diverse doll, this Planet of the Apes glamour model. Like, anybody can be glamorous. Anybody can make choices. And she, you know, that's where she got her love for the arts. And so when a child talks about her Uncle Michael and what he's going through. People sometimes listen, same with Granny Dot. I could do a grandma character, which I used to do for a long time, but I needed to create Granny Dot to have a scene with her. Again, we talked about like sometimes like for me, like up here, I'm gonna grab some puppets. These are like,
Okay.
Oh, there's this shadow puppet that we were trying to. You can see the meat cookie puppets right there.
Yeah. Meat cookies.
And this
Yes.
is the. Also, I had to like my brain. Like you can't really pull your actual brain out of your head. So I've done it. Hey, what?
Phil.
Hi, Jen. You saw me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because Lolly couldn't eat all those real cookies, or she'd be sick.
That's true.
So I think puppets are useful when they help with story, because for me everything's character driven, you know, like most people are, but sometimes, you know, or like we went to Dragon Con and we wanted to start our story of us not being able to find parking because we had, you know, first of all, we went there by Dragon, and at Dragon Con you get free parking. So we wanted to arrive by Dragon, but I made like a shadow puppet, you know, of us on a dragon, a shadow version of us flying across, and then we got the dragon dumped us on, and then we put the lights, and Lolly and I were on the ground with all our luggage on the ground. So we couldn't do that. We couldn't pre-film it. Shadows are the best because, you know, the paper.
Right.
But I go out every day in my community. Some people say, oh, I want to be on this. And, you know, we got to figure out how to generate income. But most of all, you can find it. Don't wait for a phone to ring or an audition to happen. You have to create your own work on it constantly. You know,
personal projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make me get my journals out. They're all over the place. I keep filling them up.
That's very cool. And what do you do, Granny Dot?
Well, I used to work in radio, which is what got Lolly interested. And right now I teach the Hinges and Twinges class at the YMCA for the arthritis folks. And then Lolly and I are going to step it up a bit with the podcast. I'm going to start doing I'm Not Old, I'm History section, and a couple other things. Do a lot more community outreach. Got some plans. Les has some plans for us. Yep. We got a lot planned coming up.
That